G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds you all well. Today we're going to do a sample edit just as a demonstration from a raw image that is directly out of camera through to a final edit. And I found myself recently, this image that we're looking at is the image that we're going to be editing. And I actually revisited some images that I shot in Antarctica many years ago, about 11 years ago. And I thought, hey, let's do a sample edit just to show some of the techniques that I use for editing my images. And we can pop that up as a video. So here we go. All right, let's right click and we're going to edit in Adobe Camera Raw today. However, the edit process would be exactly the same for Lightroom Classic and the Lightroom option as well. All right, so obviously shot in RAW. As I mentioned, this was shot quite a number of years ago. Let's just have a look at the settings first. So it was a 5D Mark III, and I was on the Mark I version of the 100 to 400. It was at 400mm and f6.3 and 1/1250th of a second at ISO 640. Now you can see, looking at the histogram up the top here, that the image is a little bit underexposed, and if I could revisit this image and shoot it again, I absolutely would have brought up the exposure a little bit, but that's what I shot on the day. Keeping in mind that I was on a Zodiac in a fairly rough ocean when I photographed this one. And obviously I was, even though it was during the day, I had a little bit higher ISO, so at 640, but I probably would have bumped it up to about 1,000, given that I was moving, and the opportunity to photograph these two chin-strap penguins was quite quick. So yeah, that's just a little bit of feedback for myself, I guess, just looking at this image. It would have been good to have it a little bit brighter. One good thing, though, with this exposure is you can see that we have all the detail in the white part of the penguins, and we'll be able to maintain all of that detail. And we actually have all the detail in the darker areas of the rocks as well. All right, let's just start with a little bit of a curve and just increase the exposure a little bit. Nice thing about using curves is that it anchors the white and black points. So even though you're increasing the brightness, those white points maintain at their level. So it just means that we have real control over not losing detail in the shadow and highlight areas. Speaking of highlight areas, I'm just going to drop the highlights a little bit. You can see it's just bringing back the detail in the fur there. We're going to zoom right in and you can see there is full detail there, which is great. Just while we're zoomed in, actually, you can see that there's a slight example of chromatic aberration. So I'm going to pop down to Optics and hit the chromatic aberration tool. And you can get rid of chromatic aberration manually, but I find that the profile-based one tends to work really well. And you can see there's absolutely no color fringing there at all, which is a really good thing. All right, let's head back up to our light setting. Just going to add a little bit of contrast in there, a little bit of shadow, increase, and we're going to go back down to curves and we're going to increase that one again. You can see that it was snowing at the time and we got some fantastic snowflakes frozen in the air. Not really frozen in the air, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it was just a fantastic shot. I love the fact that there was a second penguin in the background, a bit out of focus, and we got a lovely profile shot of the side of this main subject. And yeah, it looks great. All right, let's have a look at color. I'm just going to increase the magenta a little bit because there is a little bit of a cyan cast there, so just to neutralize that color. Good thing is that there's plenty of indicators with an image like this so that you can make sure to get your color correction the way that you want it. The temperature looks pretty good, and we're going to increase our vibrance. I generally always increase my vibrance to +30 just as a starting point. There's obviously not a huge number of indicators in this image of color because the penguins are black and white and the rock is mostly black and dark gray. But obviously the penguin's feet and then some of the moss that's on the rock surrounding the penguins gives us an indication of color. And I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation there as well. So that's generally the approach that I take for vibrance and saturation, around +30 and a maximum +10 for saturation. I don't like really heavily saturated images, but just enough to give the color a little bit of a pop. And that's really just in response to the general settings that I have for my camera, where I lower the contrast and I lower the saturation with a neutral overall image tone so that I've got plenty of information there to work with. All right, let's have a look at detail. I'm just going to apply a little bit of sharpening. We're going to zoom into 100% just to make sure that what we're applying is enough but not too much. You can see that there's a little bit of noise in the out of focus areas, so we're just going to mask that. I'm just holding down my Alt key, and we're just going to mask that to the areas where we want the sharpening applied to. And there's not really any noise there, so I'm really happy with the rest of that image. Yeah, that's great. Lovely detail there. All right, and we're maybe just going to pop a little bit more exposure there. A little bit more of a drop off in the highlights, and I'm pretty happy with that. So you can see we've maintained detail everywhere. There's detail in the bright areas, and there's detail in the shadow areas maintained. Of course, the way to check that your image has been edited properly is to produce a print, if that's where you're intending the image to go. I'd be pretty happy with a digital version of this image going onto social media or online, wherever it may be. But obviously, print, sometimes you do take a slightly different approach to your editing, particularly with highlights and shadows, just to make sure that everything is looking good. So I'm pretty happy with all of that. Yep, lovely detail on the rock. And great detail in the shadow areas. Highlights in the background there haven't been blown out. Maybe as we speak, I'm just going to increase that exposure just ever so slightly. And I'm happy with all of that. All right, fairly quick and easy edit process for this image. I generally try to shoot as best in camera as I can. Sometimes situations like this, I could have, as I mentioned earlier, had the image a little bit brighter in camera, but it was certainly an easy fix to bring it up to an acceptable brightness level. But even then, with the edits, they were fairly basic and straightforward edits that have worked well for the image, so I'm happy with where this is at. So some light and color adjustments, some detail adjustments, adjustment for optics to look at chromatic aberration, and sharpness application. No real need for noise reduction because there wasn't a great deal of noise in this image anyway. But yeah, I'm happy with that. And it'd be great to do a test print just to see how the image looks. Thanks as always for stopping by. As always, any questions are welcome in the comments below. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.